Welcome everyone to the Impact Show. Today is November 16th, 2017, and this is episode 28. On this episode, we're going to be talking about technical SEO, how to introduce inbound to your sales team, the big five, more updates on what happened with Impact's website redesign, ending client agreements and whether or not we should be doing that, and more. I'm Bob.
And I'm Nick.
And we're here to help growth leaders, those people charged with growing their organization from something small into something big. We're here to help them overcome common obstacles and create breakthroughs.
And that's what we mean, folks, by making an impact.
This episode is being broadcasted live on Facebook and then being repurposed on iTunes, the Impact blog, and YouTube.
That's right. So let's keep it live and interactive. We really, really appreciate your comments during and after the show.
Wait, what's that? Marcus, have you been there the whole time?
That I have, sir. I have crashed this party known as Impact, the Impact Show.
Dude, I'm so glad you're here, buddy. Yeah. So I think our audience all pretty much knows who Marcus is. But for those of them that might not know who you are, why don't you give a quick little overview?
Yeah, in a previous life, I was a pool guy, and now I have a company called the Sales Lion, and we do digital sales and marketing consulting. And I have the great luxury of just speaking and teaching all over the world on something that I'm really passionate about, which is sales, business, marketing, better communication. And so that's my jam.
That's awesome, man. And the reason why you're here is we've been hanging out all afternoon. We just did an awesome webinar together for SEMrush. We had over 200 people on that webinar live at one point, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. People came out for that.
So it's, I think the recording is going to be available. I definitely highly recommend you check it out. Marcus crushed it. I was there. And one of the comments that, so we had a little call to action there for people to join Impact Elite afterwards. And we had probably 20 something people come over from the webinar, joined Elite. One of the comments from Fernando Diaz, so welcome. So glad you joined the group. I'm on the webinar right now and it's mind blowing. That's Marcus.
It's a good day. It's a good day.
Cool. So why don't we jump into it? We'll go to our first segment here. It's this called What Marketers Be Talking About. And this is where we go over things that you're saying inside Impact Elite. But Nick, first, what is Impact Elite?
Yeah, I mean, folks, you just heard Bob talking about it. Impact Elite's a community of now over 900 members. It's a group that we keep on Facebook. That's up from 800 last week. So the
hell yeah,
is hot. It is taking off. There's a lot of excitement in there. And really, we made it as a gathering place for passionate marketers who are looking to help other marketers succeed. So we'd love for you to come join us. I think it's been a really great initiative that we've all really gotten great positive reviews from doing. It's nice to be able to say, instead of just subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on our blog or whatever, to actually come to a real group where we hang out and interact every day. So check it on out. Head on to either Impact BND, that's our main website, /elite, or just go over to Facebook and search in Facebook groups for Impact Elite Group and request to join.
And some guy named Zach Basner. I'm not sure. Has anyone ever heard of him?
Who's
never heard of him?
Well, he says this is epic, so it's really cool that everyone's here and we're doing this together.
He seems to know a thing or two about video. From what
he does. He is tremendous, that guy.
Absolutely.
He's amazing. Yeah. Cool. So Nick, what are some of the things going on in Elite?
Bob, Marcus, we've got some questions that the community has been asking us, and I'm wondering if you guys can chime in. The first one's from Kevin Mitchell, who asked us, this is a classic, frankly, is for educational content, ebook, white paper, what have you found to be the best converting CTA text for simple buttons? So I think Kevin's asking if you're going to be offering a piece of content like that. Do you guys have any tips or sort of go-to formulas and stuff you like to think about, best practices, if you're promoting that in a call to action button to go check it out?
Good, Bob.
Well, my first thought when I saw that was that the words ebook and white paper jumped off the page, jumped off the group timeline. And I'm wondering if Kevin is asking the question because he's not getting a lot of conversions on his ebook or his white paper. And maybe that's why he's saying, okay, maybe it's my call to action. Maybe he's diagnosed that as the problem.
Right.
From our experience that we've seen across the hundreds of clients that we've worked with over the last 2-3 years, we've seen diminishing results on ebooks as conversion points because there's such an oversaturation of content going on where everyone, especially in our industry with digital marketing, where there's long form blog topics really on anything you want. So most people don't want to fill out a form to just get more written content. So if that's the issue, then I'd say maybe the problem is what you're actually offering, opposed to the actual call to action, and maybe consider something maybe a little more useful, like a template or interactive piece of content, or even like a webinar that's interactive. People understand they have to register for webinars. So maybe it's the offer that's the issue, not the call to action.
It could be too that they're just, words matter in life and everything we do, certainly in sales and marketing, right? And so I try to never call something an ebook. And so along those lines, if you're going to have it, like if it's going to be on the site, then I would suggest that you don't call it an ebook, call it maybe a buying guide. A buying guide is going to outperform ebook. I can tell you that right now. And I would never use the phrase white paper ever again as long as you live. Now, there might be a couple industries where it's incredibly standard to use it, but even then, I'd be very, very cautious. It's the phrase. If there's any phrase that was made to sound non-sexy, it was the phrase white paper, right? It just doesn't induce conversions.
So
and but when it comes to the simple buttons that we use on these CTAs, it does matter, right? And so the one thing that I wouldn't put is download. I wouldn't put that. The one that I like that we seem to have a decent amount of success with is the Get It Now. Get It Now is fun. Get It Now is good. And or Start Reading Now, right? That's another one. So try to have a little bit of fun with your CTAs. I think your CTA buttons should reflect a little bit of your company character and culture as well.
Ooh, I like that. Definitely. That's a huge opportunity. I'll throw a little icing onto this cake, gentlemen, which I think that also we've seen success with putting a little like graphical icon. So whatever the format of the offering, maybe you can kind of tease it and show it in the button itself, a little picture of a research guide, a little calculator, a little ebook or something, make it pop a little bit more visually than just the text. And then also remember why somebody might want to click on that offer as well, in addition to what Bob and Marcus just told you. Maybe.
Right, Nick, because like maybe add a video too, because videos have shown to add maybe up to an 80% lift on conversions of that type of material. It's a no-brainer to have video on your landing pages, your conversion pages.
Yeah, up it a little bit more.
So one thing, guys, I'm looking at the way we're coming across. We might want to all kind of take a little lean back from our cameras.
Yeah, this is our first time. I want
doing 3 people.
Yes, we're really tight in here. It's like,
yeah, I'm doing that. I'm like, I got to make sure I keep in my margins here.
There we go.
It is doable. Shout out to Christine, our executive producer here, who helped figure this out.
So, now I'm very small.
That's a lot better. I think it's more normal size when we sit back. There you go. Cool. All right. What's next?
Guys. I got another one for you. This one was from Kristen Dinowell, who said, we are looking at, and this gets asked a lot in these types of groups, and rightly so for professionals, is we're looking at a new project management solution. And I was looking at Jira Core. You don't have to know what that platform is, but it doesn't look like it has time tracking. I'm curious as to how many people are tracking their team's time. And she's probably asking what you use. People hate tracking time, but I don't know how else we'd know what our margins are if we don't track it. So there's a little bit in there just about, guys.
It's a valid point.
Yeah, project management solutions you like, how you use it to track your own time or whether you track time or not. What are your thoughts on that to help Kristen out?
So over at TSL, Marcus, do you guys do time tracking or using a project management system?
No, I don't think that, I'm the best guy to answer this. I'll only say that Kristen is awesome, and Dynamico, her company, is really, really awesome too as an inbound agency. So high five to you, Kristen. Go ahead, Bob. What do you have to say about that?
We love having her in Elite. And this is a great question. So we use Jira, and Jira does have a time tracking component. I think either Bree, or Angela or Britt, one of them hopped on and mentioned it's called Tempo. So when we first went agile last summer and implemented Jira and implemented all the agile Scrum principles, we originally were doing some time tracking. So that's how we originally did it. But our people have always hated time tracking. When we were working with Mark Long, he was advising us and saying, well, some people do time tracking, some people don't. It's really a personal preference because it is a lot of extra effort to do it. And then you have to monitor the reports. And if you're not really going to monitor it, it's not even worth doing in the first place. So you kind of have to make the business decision. At Impact, we made the business decision not to track time. And I know that sounds crazy. And if you're going to read one of Paul Reitzer's books, he's going to tell you how important time tracking is. but we do it in a different way. So we still get the same outcome without having to actually track time. So when we originally were tracking it, we were trying to understand how much time it does take to complete a task on average, like a blog post, right?
It's important. It'll be different for everybody.
That's right. And maybe part of the effort or part of the creating a blog post, actually writing the copy, right? And we measured out how long that would be. Now in Scrum, you apply points to it, and you say 15 minutes to an hour is 1 point, 1 hour to 2 hours is 2 points, and so on, right? So you use a system for that. So we manage our people's capacity by how many points they can manage, and we give them the amount of work based on how many points they should be able to handle. So call it 36 points a week. And they always consistently have 36 points worth of work to do in a given week. And then, we certainly listen to feedback. If they say, listen, you guys have this as a 1 point story, but it really takes, 3 or 4 hours to do, we'll evaluate it, but we don't need time tracking to do it. Hopefully that was, I know it's very long-winded, but hopefully that helps try to understand how we're doing it here in Impact. And, I'd certainly recommend that to take a look at doing it that way as well.
I'll just add to my personal experience. The first time Kristen, I ever experienced time tracking when I was at HubSpot Academy, and my leader, Mark Killens, brought in the concept of us tracking our time. But I think what's good is how he positioned it to us, which was he wanted to make sure that none of us were burning out, and that we also were putting our hours into things that were really important for our role, why we were there, what we were trying to accomplish. And it became a vehicle to kind of guide our one-on-ones to basically say, where's your time going? Is it going to the places that we both agree are important? And hopefully you're not burning out, or you're not actually kind of under delivering, which doesn't feel good for anybody. And we did that on a simple Excel spreadsheet, Kristen. So if people are thinking about, oh, I've never tracked time before, I'm afraid of how to position it, I'm afraid of how to track it. We started it with a spreadsheet, and was premised with, let's just play curious as to where people's time go, so we can help those people be focusing on putting the right time in the right places, not burning out. And it went very well. So just a thought as well.
So a couple comments off these last 2 points that came through here. Kimball asked, what would you call the equivalent of a white paper? And Marcus, I think you called it like a buying guide. I thought that was really cool. What would be some other names that you can use for a white paper instead of white paper?
I thought of it as like a manifesto for the industry, like a white paper, meaning I'm putting this out there without trying to promote my own thing. I'm just trying to talk about the trend or whatever that people in our industry might want to read up on, but I'm not even sure if that's actually accurate.
Yeah, I just, because we usually end up going with just guides. Yeah, but I'm not saying that's the best one. I think that might be a thesaurus moment there.
Yeah, okay. Right. Some synonyms.
And John Mateague says, put the benefit on the button, start becoming the expert now.
Straight up.
What else we have here? So going back to the project management software. So I've heard of this one and I tested it out. I never actually used this project management platform, but Rike, W-R-I-K-E. Mm-hmm. So Joanna Shepard's using Rike, and that has time tracking. Be interested to hear if you're happy with it, Joanna. I've checked it out. It never really worked for us. Again, I probably never spent more than 15 minutes checking it out, but that's interesting there as well. Cool.
Comments, folks, keep them coming. As you can see, you ask, we answer. That's what Marcus talks about. So
it's a good motto. Good motto.
Like it.
Great. Well, let's move on to our next segment, where we're going to go into some of the main topics for the day. But before we do, we just said we love the comments. Keep them coming. If you're watching the recording, then the email address is show@impactbnd.com. Send in your questions or comments afterwards, and we'll address them in the show next week. But the first topic we're going to go through today, I'm going to talk about some technical SEO tips and how to boost traffic right away. This is actually, so as you know, we take suggestions from Impact Elite and what you guys want us to talk about. And this actually came from Tom, on the other side of this wall over here.
Scipio.
But then there was a lot of likes and comments on that and saying that that's a topic people want to hear more about. So as we've been going through this journey of becoming more of a publisher, trying to get our traffic way up, obviously, part of that was the website updates that we did to impactbnd.com. And the whole idea is we're trying to get to 1 million visitors per month so we could be thinking like a publisher. One of the key components of that was we knew we had a ton of content, but we weren't performing as well in search engines as we would have liked. And this has been a journey for us over a couple of years. We're doing little project over time. So some of the biggest things from a technical SEO standpoint, and I want to give a shout out to my buddy Franco Valentino. Marcus, I know you guys have a relationship. You guys work together. He's been working with Impact over the last few months, and he's been awesome.
Yeah, it's some great case studies of what he's helped pull off for the Sales Lion.
Yeah, and things that he's doing with us. Our traffic since we started working with him has increased. I'm going to try to do some quick math in my head, but we were at probably about 250 monthly visitors. Now we're at 345 was what we did last month. So whatever the math there is, it's a pretty big leap.
Yeah,
just some of the things that he's
that's 1,000 for those of you that were wondering.
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, thousands. Yeah. But what he'll tell you, and this is what he's coaching us for all of our clients. One, you got to make sure that you have SSL set up on your website. Having a secure website, it's one of the things Google, it's a high ranking factor for them. Franco says he's seen like hockey stick like improvement by having SSL on your site. So that's number one. If you're a HubSpot customer, this is available to you with just a click of a button behind the scenes. So make sure you have a secure website, HTTPS. That's how you know if your site is secure or not. Two,
hacking's a real thing, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Two, and this made a world of difference for us even before we started working with Franco. This got us from like 50 to probably 150 is heavy focus on our site speed. The pages on our website, making sure they're as optimal for speed as possible. So we took a look at our homepage. We took a look at our blog template, outer, inner. Most of our traffic comes in through our website articles. So making sure that the template is as light and as lean as possible. It's still functional and doing the things that we need it to do. But the biggest culprit is typically images in your blog articles. So really taking the Pareto, and this is another thing that Franco preaches, your Pareto, the 20% of your site that gets you 80% of your traffic and leads, focusing on that and make sure that you've reduced the size of the images and everything that's actually on that article or on that page. So these are things that we've done.
I've done it. You know, you write the blog post, you get the page, you want to just put it up, and you got that 4 megabyte image, and you're just like, upload. Yeah. You know, you could have resized it to take maybe just a couple clicks depending on what you're using, like in HubSpot, but you can't skip that step. It's going to catch up to you.
So those are the basics. Marcus, how about for your site? I know you guys have put a lot of work into SEO. And
well, yeah, side. I mean, you know, technical SEO, I think it gets a bit cloudy as to what is standard versus what is technical SEO. And the only thing I'll add to that, because I think you hit all the majors, especially what we need to be thinking about now in terms of speed and mobile and all these things. But I would just say, you know, oftentimes when a company tells me we're doing our SEO well, I find that they are leaving major SEO opportunities on the table. And so let me just give you a simple example of what I'm talking about, right? Like, let's say that you wanted to write a versus article, which is, of course, Big Five, right? And you wanted to say HubSpot versus Marketo. And so therefore, you know, you did an article that was, you know, a deep dive comparison on HubSpot versus Marketo. Well, most people would say that's a really good title, right? And it is a solid title. But the issue is that you're leaving potential keyword opportunities still on the table. So how would I change that around? So I might say HubSpot versus Marketo : an in-depth review. And now, when you've done that, you've actually gone after 2 keyword birds with 1 stone. You're targeting the review side. Okay, HubSpot Marketo reviews could be one, right? But you're also targeting HubSpot versus Marketo. So it's a really simple example, and there's a bunch of those. But more often than not, I find that people are just leaving money on the table.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Mm-hmm. Some other technical stuff that we've been working on too. This gets a little bit more in the weeds. Use a program like SEMrush. Marcus, we were just on their webinar. It's one of our favorite tools. Definitely top 10 in our toolbox here at Impact. And you know, use their site audit tool and start chopping away at the things that they recommend as part of their site audit. So for us, toxic backlinks, we didn't have a lot, but right through SEMrush, you could disavow toxic backlinks. That was super quick and it had a little uptick. We also realized we have 3,000 blog articles, or we did. Some of those were really old, outdated, not great content, and the functionality wasn't great. And those are where a lot of our big images were. So we were starting to do some 301 redirects to get rid of the old content and redirect it to newer content around the same topic. That was a huge win. People will talk about technical SEO, talk about backlinks too, and how important they are. Marcus, I'm sure you'll agree, and Nick, I'm sure you'll agree too. If you're doing content marketing well, and if you're doing the things like the big five and you're doing that well, you're going to naturally attract good quality links anyways. So you don't have to do a lot of, in my opinion, you don't have to do a lot of the work like reaching out to people and emailing them, asking for the link back to your content.
Yeah. If the content is worth talking about and you yourself are the type of marketer or publisher that people respect because you're consistent and you're dedicated and you're honest about it, I think you're right, Bob. Those types of links and shares will come.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I've never worried about trying to build links for impact. I'm not sure, Marcus, if you ever.
No, I never have. I've got thousands of river pools. I never have. And, I can tell you this too. I just don't feel like links is a long-term solution for SEO. I don't think in 10 years it's going to even play into Google search algorithm, which some people would listen to me and say that's nuts.
Right.
But if we're looking at it at a human element, and we say, do we want to be influenced by links that could or may not be legitimate? Google's going to say, well, we don't want to be, and if we could get them out of the fray, out of the equation, we're going to eliminate them. Yeah. And so I think in 10 years, it won't be a part of this. And it's still going to be, though, who has got the best, most specific, relevant answer to the question or whatever the search query is.
Yeah, and if you are geeking out on search engine algorithms, Marcus's theory is correct. I mean, hasn't Google updated these algorithms before to say these cruddy backlinks, these link farms, we're going to depreciate them? So you're absolutely, we've seen it. They will figure out how to get the people who are just solving for the link out of the equation.
That's right.
Try to surface expertise and people who actually are passionate about answering the question higher. It just makes sense.
And for those that are wondering, okay, why do links matter in SEO? Google right now is using that as a factor to say how important is a website relative to other websites. So if you have two articles that are, for all intents and purposes, equal, they're going to say, well, the page or the site and the company that gets the more links and more authority going to it should be outranking the other one that doesn't have that. That's the basic premise behind links. But I agree with Marcus. There's going to be something that comes along and replaces it. Certainly as more machine learning and AI is getting involved in the process of determining what results to show, things will change in the future.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from taking training and lessons from Franco and diving into what people could call technical SEO is, it is technical. It sometimes does require software, and it's going to require kind of boring back end updates, but that can have that extra lift. But to Marcus's point, none of that really matters if what you're trying to lift is not authoritative, is not relevant, and so on. So I think it's kind of icing on the cake once you've really got your main content strategy rolling.
And John Matei just had a comment here too. You should be training your brand journalists in writing for SEO, not just for SEO, but with SEO in mind. And I think that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
point, John.
If you're looking to do better with SEO, if you're looking to understand more technical SEO, don't worry, Impact's got you covered. And I'm not going to pitch a service. I'm going to pitch an awesome webinar that's an Impact Elite exclusive that we're doing next week. So this will be our third or fourth exclusive webinar we've done for Elite, because we love our members and we want to make sure we're taking care of them. We mentioned Franco Valentino. Marcus has worked with him. We've worked with him. I think the world of him. And he's going to be doing a webinar next week on technical SEO. This is going to be on November 22nd at 11 o'clock Eastern. So we'll do some more promo inside Impact Elite so you know exactly what it is. But we'd love for you to join us. And he's got his top 10 tips. It's going to be something you really want to check out.
I'm psyched for it.
So let's move on to our next topic. And this is a question that came in from Frances Bowman.
Yay, Frances.
We love her. And maybe she knew that you were going to be on, Marcus, because this one I want you to roll with. It's, you know, how do you introduce inbound marketing to a sales team in a way that creates buy-in? And this is followed up by Catherine. I'm going to do a terrible job with this last name, Gritschmacher,
okay.
Who says, great question. And she recommends reading the book, They Ask You Answer by Marcus. It's excellent. And I think it will help you. So Francis definitely knows who you are, but it's really cool to hear that this community talk about your book. But how do you introduce inbound marketing to your sales team in a way that's going to get buy-in?
Well, the whole key to sales and getting sales teams bought in is you have to speak their language. And unfortunately, a lot of marketers speak marketing, right? So let me give you an example. You go to your sales team and you say, what percentage of the questions that you get on every first sales call are the same questions? And they're going to come out and say, like most sales teams, they're going to say about 80%. And then you're going to say, how do you feel about the fact that you have to answer them over and over and over again? And they're going to tell you it's really frustrating. And you could say, do you ever receive a question from a prospect that immediately tells you this person's going to be a bad fit? I can already see that this isn't going to be a great sales call. And they're going to give you a whole bunch of those. And so you have this type of line of questioning. And then you say, if we could eliminate those from the fray, if you could only talk to people that were informed, that not only knew the answers to those questions, but they knew our answers because they had heard us talk about it, because they had seen us talk about it, would that interest you and help you to do your job better? Any salesperson in the world is going to say, heck to the yeah, right? And that literally is the mindset. Now, what I did there was that was an example of a simple conversation. Now, the more advanced answer to this, and I know Francis knows this, but I'm going to say this anyway. The problem that a lot of marketers have is they can be a prophet to the world, but nobody will listen to them in their hometown. And so they might be great at their job, but because they work in the company, it's just noise. And this is why when I go in and teach a workshop, usually what the marketing person says, Marcus, I've been saying this for 3 years. I don't understand why you come in and say it, and now all of a sudden everybody acts like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's not because of me, Bob. It's just because somebody from the outside's coming in. Everybody got together. There was a meeting where everybody focused their attention. They turned off their cell phones, and you talked about it. And when you talk about it and you really are educated on what inbound is, because inbound is about sales first, marketing second. When you pitch it that way and explain it that way and discuss it, now you're going to have big time success.
That's right. And all that political baggage they leave outside as well. Sometimes it's just these teams haven't gotten along, or they had an idea that didn't pan out and stuff like that. Having that neutral source bring that message through with credibility too, like you do.
Great point. Great point.
That helps.
Amanda Martin says that you're speaking to her normal life, Marcus.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the #1 email that I've received in 7 years. And I've gotten thousands and thousands of emails from, readers and audience members. #1 is frustrated marketers that can't seem to get the buy-in of either leadership or sales. And this is why I've made it my little mission within this industry now I've taught over 200 workshops on this by this point. And it's beautiful when you get that buy-in. But I've had, how many marketers I've had meet with me privately and just start bawling on the spot, Bob? I mean, this is an intense problem in this industry. And, I've said a
sense of self-worth, and credibility.
It's tough, man. It's tough. I've had marketers say, I'm working 65 hours a week on average. Nobody gets my value. They don't understand what I'm doing. And I go to them for help and they say, I don't have the time, or that's not my job. And you see, it goes back to a lack of education. Buy-in always stems from a lack of education. But a lack of education stems from a lack of buy-in, because if you have buy-in, you say, let's send the sales team to inbound. Let's bring in that person for the workshop. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely starts with leadership too. That needs to be educated. And obviously we want to get them bought in, but they really need to be educated on
It's
that
a trickle down effect. That's right.
because it's doing what we do and doing it well is culture. It's not a tactic. It's a way of life. And it's a way of being. It's a way of, this is the way we do business. And if the company doesn't view it that way, then you're gonna have a very large uphill battle.
Amen to that.
Marcus, I had a question for you on this topic because I feel like you've been so up close and personal with these sales teams across these like 200 workshops. Have you found over the years since you've embarked on doing this, has it gotten harder or easier for you or for these teams because the industry's evolved, or you kind of zero in on what you know those pain points are? I'm just wondering what the experience has been like for you trying to help convince these sales teams to get on board, if it's changed at all, and why.
Yeah, truth is truth. It hasn't changed. And I teach them literally exactly the same as I did when I started. It hasn't that because really what we're talking about here, if you want to persuade somebody that doesn't want to be persuaded, it's a very difficult. And you have to do basically two things, right? Number one, you have to show them the mirror. In other words, they have to see how they themselves behave, how they think, how they buy. And if they can't see the mirror, we got nothing.
Right.
So that's the first part, which leads to the second part, which is if you want to persuade people to do something that is right and true, but they still don't want to do it, you have to help them discover the truth without you telling them the truth itself. Because if somebody doesn't discover it for themselves, they won't own it. That is a principle that began since the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. But if you can explain it in such a way that is conversational, question-based, that's where the light bulbs come on. And that's where they're able to say, oh my goodness, why are we not doing this? You know what? I think we should be doing this. And you say, yeah, I think so too. But if you're the one saying, I'm telling you, we should be doing this, you're not going to get the buy-in that you seek.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the good news is, Marcus, when you described the example of how you can do questioning, it was the least technical way to go about it. So when people are saying, oh, that's man, correct. I have to explain this potentially complex phenomenon, it's like, do it in the most simple, nothing new sort of mentality. Just walk them through normal human behavior and instincts and stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful, natural thing. It's non-manipulative. It's the most educational. It's powerful. It's galvanizing.
Cool. I'll just say, folks, if you're looking for the script, I mean, Marcus didn't ask me to do this, but this book is basically the types of sound bites and stuff like that Marcus is just used here on this session, but would use in these workshops.
Thank you for that, bud.
Yeah. They ask you answer.
It's an easy way to figure this out. If you're still like, well, I don't think I could think of what the questions are, just get the book.
Yeah. So that's part of what the book goes into, but what the book really goes deep into is something called the Big Five. And Marcus, we just did a webinar on this, and people went nuts about the topic of the Big Five.
It's crazy, and it's you've heard me talking about the Big Five now for since first inbound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry, Bob.
So no, it's what and love to try to cover this in 5 minutes or less. The people that watch this probably know what the Big Five are. So give us a super high level overview, and maybe let's cover some things maybe we haven't covered yet either today, or maybe things that are more interesting about the five that people maybe haven't heard yet. Any stories or things that are deep in your bag of things you pull out that you don't always pull out.
Yeah,
I mean, doing this, folks, chime in if you've been trying any of these five that he's going to speak to as well.
Oh, great point.
Yeah. So really quick, y'all, the Big Five. And I got to kill some light here real quick. So Bob, you talk for a second because it looks like I'm starting to shade out here.
No worries.
Bright sunshine shining. I was actually there when Marcus kind of did this first session at Inbound way back in the day. And once again, it was just like the obvious, just very well kind of articulated with backup of somebody who'd applied it.
And I know what I did at Inbound when I saw Marcus. I saw him walk by and goes, "Oh my God, that was Marcus Sheridan."
Well, well, I can tell you this. The Big Five has been practiced now by businesses all over the world. And what it basically represents, it's the subjects that people want to understand before they are comfortable enough to talk to a salesperson or to go to the store
Yeah.
or to engage the company, whatever it is. Because there's certain parameters that we want to fill out on our head before we're able to say, okay, I'm in a position to go further with this. There are cost-based questions, problems-based questions. In other words, what are the drawbacks, the negatives with that particular thing? Comparison-based questions, because we always want to compare the options that we have so as to make sure in our mind we're choosing the best thing, best company, best brand, best widget. It doesn't matter. We want to know what is everybody saying about that thing, reviews, and we want to know what the best thing is. And this applies literally again to every industry in the world. And because we don't have time to go into it, like you can find on the book, you can find on the Sales Lion. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to help your sales team eliminate the 80% of questions they're getting over and over and over again, you start with the Big Five. Because the beauty of the Big Five is not only is it going to be a potential gold mine from a search SEO perspective, but in terms of helping your sales team right now get more qualified leads, save time on sales appointments, resolve concerns before they become concerns, the Big Five and answering those questions is the way to do it.
But Marcus, I don't want to talk about my competitors on our website.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the problem is too often we let our opinions screw up really smart business. You know, we do it all the time. We do it with video. We do it with all types of communication because we have to go about it like this. Buyers aren't dumb. Even the uninformed will become the informed. Yeah. And so if we understand this, then we have now an ability to communicate with them at a level that nobody else in the industry will communicate with them. I hear all the time companies say, we have great content marketing, okay? And they haven't addressed the Big Five. They haven't addressed the 80% of questions they get asked every single day by buyers, because that's where the rubber meets the road. That's what's going to help the sales team. And then they wonder, well, we have some traffic growth, but we're not getting any more leads. Well, our sales team seems disconnected with this. Well, of course, because it has to start with them, y'all. It's not about that fluffy piece that's going to give you a couple reads, but never generate a lead and certainly never help a sales team member.
Yeah, that's a scary place to be in when you spent all this time writing this content and you're waiting for that lead payoff. I really like that you said that, Marcus. We at least know, no matter what, if we write content that's going to help salespeople today close more deals, then that alone was worth the effort.
Even if it never gets a single organic visitor, it's a win. And that's the beauty of this. How many times has somebody said, well, how long is this going to take to work? And somebody else says, well, it takes about 12 to 18 months to really see results with content marketing. No, if we're using content the right way, producing the right type, and then training said sales team how to integrate it into the sales process, it can work tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's the goal.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. If you're just going to wait for your website to produce leads, and you just do a typical, but any HubSpot certification or ebook would tell you this is how you do a blogging program, and you're saying, where are my leads? It could take 12 to 18 months, and it could take even longer if that ever happens. You add the Big Five in there, and what we've seen with our clients and what we've seen when we did it for ourselves, leads start happening organically right away. And then when your sales team, like Marcus was just saying, actually utilizes it correctly, you're right. It's the article comes out and it's helping you close deals on your next sales call.
Mm-hmm. Follow-up emails get written faster. They're more effective. It causes people to have deeper engagement because they actually click in and read in richer content after you follow up with them. You've got easy things to reference and so on. Yeah. The real nightmare is, folks, and we've seen this, this happens all the time, is actually marketers make inbound marketing work, spend all this money and effort and time to get articles to generate leads, and the sales team is totally disconnected, as Marcus said, and they don't follow up with the leads, or they can't handle the leads.
That's right.
That's just like the worst. It's like we did all this effort. We actually made it pay off, and the sales team is not oriented to how to pick up the conversation from here at all.
Yeah.
That
Or,
happens.
or our system is that, we get an email to our sales team. Did you call them? Oh, well, we're going to call them on Friday. We're going to go hammer through the list of all the leads that came in through the website, right? Yeah. That's a whole nother topic for probably another day.
Another day or a few days.
So let's move on to the next topic. So one of the questions that we had, again, throwing it out there, these are all the topics that impact elite picks. So Marcus, I'm not sure if you know this, but we completely changed the impact show. You can see the new format. Everything we talk about,
it's very cool.
everything we talk about is completely sourced from the community. So we're just taking the topics that people are asking us to talk about. So the one of the questions was from Pamela Frost. She wants to know what change to your website has performed best for you. So obviously we had our site completely redesigned a couple weeks ago, and we're watching the data, watching it closely. I think the thing that I'm most fascinated with is the fact that we removed all the pop-ups off our website, and we've had a very minimal change to our conversions. We talked about this a lot last week, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but we made sure we had really good offers, and we strategically placed them on the site so they're front and center and they're clear. So they could do the same thing that pop-ups would do without having to actually be an interruptive pop-up that creates a bad user experience. One of the things that John McTeague mentioned last week was that to watch the bounce rate. And I have to be honest, I have not watched the bounce rate yet. But I'm really interested in going back and looking at that. But the fact that our website traffic has grown. So last week, 2 weeks ago, we did 78,000 website visitors in a week. Last week, we did 85,000. So I think that's a combination of some of the technical SEO stuff that we're working with Franco on. I think actually I have to give most of the credit to that, especially the stuff that we did with our Pareto content, our most top 50 articles on the site, and how we cleaned them up and did different things. All the stuff we talked about earlier in the segment, earlier in the episode. But one thing that we did that we haven't really talked about, but it's part of our next step plans that I'm really excited about, is we introduced a much better categorization system on our site. Go back Impact 2013, we had a ton of categories. We thought it was probably a good idea to get rid of all the categories. We wrapped up to like 5 categories, and we operated like that until a few weeks ago. And then we had this daunting task of going back and taking all of our articles and put them back into different categories, 3 to 4 categories or topics per post. There's a real reason why we're doing that. It's to create a really good user experience. And obviously it's going to help us with topic clusters to a certain extent, but the master plan that I want to share with everybody, and this is really ahead because we're wireframing this now. So if you're a really good web developer and a competitor, you could probably beat us to the punch if you actually go ahead and do this, if you value it.
Bob likes some competition.
Yeah, why not? It'd be fun. That's what Impact's all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to create topic clusters that's integrated with our categories from the HubSpot blog. So if you click on search engine optimization, say that is a topic, instead of going to what HubSpot will bring you to, which is a category page of all your recent search engine optimization articles, we're going to use a 301 redirect to bring that to a custom page that will have a sidebar of all of our topic cluster content around SEO. And then one of the links in the sidebar will say recent articles, and that's where you'll be. But you'll be in the topic cluster like category page. And then all the links above will start with what is SEO, and then we'll start going deeper into our topics there. So we're going to turn those articles into pages so we can keep the same framework. And we're going to create this content hub around those categories, completely integrated into our categorization system. Nerd stuff. If I'm not explaining myself really good, Marcus and Nick certainly chime in. This is something I really think is going to help our SEO a ton, but it's also going to be a very valuable resource. That's a one go-to place. If SEO is what's important to you, or hiring an agency is important to you, or impact stories is important to you, you can go right into the hub of all of that and have a really good user experience.
Well, what I heard from there, Bob, is actually, yes, thinking about the user's experience of what you believe you think that they want, plus adding in your own vision of how best to give it to them, and then not accepting just the out of the box default of the way that like our CMS, our software on HubSpot is working. And I don't think anybody at HubSpot would say, thou shalt not ever take that categorization thing and change it. Nobody's ever said that. I'm sure they would love it if you could do something innovative that follows some best practices, like creating these master home pages for each topic and stuff.
So, and this could totally bomb, but we're gonna do SEO first.
I don't know, Marcus, if there's anything that resonates with you from that tactic, or if there's other things that you've seen you've done from your own site, or quick wins you've done with other clients and advised them that have really helped.
Oh, man, I mean, as deep as Bob got there, I don't know if I don't know if I have anything to add to it. I mean, I just think, to me, my key takeaway from that is just always testing, auditing. It's easy to rest on your laurels, right? But like Bob, you're killing it, and you're like, can we push this envelope even further?
Mm-hmm. I like that, Marcus. I was thinking that too as Bob was talking. Like, you just got to really care about your website. It's pretty easy to say, we did the update, the page is up, I followed the checklist. Next thing, let's move on. You almost don't want to face the music of the fact that I've got 20 or 30 pages out there that have gotten less than 10 views in the last 6 months.
Right. Right.
Who wants to deal with what to do about that? But the fact of the matter is, that's out there. That's what it looks like.
Reality.
It looks like you're walking around wearing dirty laundry. You have to audit, you have to test and take a hard look at the results and make a decision.
And the thoughts behind that is the data shows people are clicking on the categories, and those category pages are getting traffic. If people are clicking on that, it's because they want to learn more about search engine optimization or whatever category they clicked on. And how do we create the best experience for our users when they do that? When they get there, if they want to learn more about SEO, we should have all of our best content SEO easy and accessible, not just the recent articles in the order of when they were last published. So that was a lot of the mindset there, but we got to be thinking like a publisher, and publishers have very organized, categorized sites, and we need to have that too.
Word.
So that's a little behind the scenes, behind the screens of impact.
I'm glad that we continue just to try to take risks and figure stuff out.
Yeah.
I got to think our commitment to saying the content we put out is one of the most important things about our business, and having our website follow suit. I got to think our audiences will reward us for that, versus this thing that we sell is the reason why this website exists.
Andrea Funk just said she's done something similar. So I will be going over to check out her website, 2 cool t-shirt quilts, and I will be probably pulling a lot of inspiration from what she's done.
Not only is she the best in the world at making t-shirt quilts, fact.
Yes.
She's been super dedicated to inbound for a long time. So you can benefit from her experience.
Absolutely. So the last topic that we have today before we move into final thoughts, so this actually came from John Matag from Kuno Creative, I'm sorry, not Kuno anymore. It used to be Kuno. He's on his own right now. But John's a very good friend of ours, and he asked a very interesting question around. He says, for whatever reason, your agency-client relationship isn't working. When is it time for a heart-to-heart and maybe a divorce? Marcus, do you want to take that first? I have strong feelings, but I want to see if you and I are aligned on this.
I'd be curious to see, Marcus, if you have encountered that in your own work, and or because you do a lot of work with communication with people and stuff like that, if it's something you've talked to other people about because they struggle with it.
Well, to me, that whole conversation starts at the beginning of the relationship. And there's a lot of people that come to us at the sales line and they want help. And I come out and say, I just don't think you're ready for this, which can really make them frustrated and mad. Like, what do you mean I'm not ready for this? I'm like, I don't sense that you understand the commitment that's going to take for us to be outrageously successful. And at this point, I'm looking for outrageously successful. But you're going to have to do your part. It's a two-way street. I think too many agency-based services out there, whether it's marketing or some other, they paint this picture early on of here's all the things we're going to do for you. Whereas in reality, the relationship from the beginning has to be, so how are we going to crush this together? What's your part? What's ours? And what's our commitment? Now, I'm going to say one more thing about this. We've had plenty of customers that it didn't work out with. But here's what's fascinating about it. usually instead of me saying, you guys got to go, literally it's them coming to me saying, Marcus, you told us if we didn't do this, this, and this at the beginning, well, then we wouldn't see the results and the outcome that we desired. And for whatever reason, we just haven't done those things. We've gotten in our own way. And I think because of that, we're just not ready yet. And there's been many times when I said, you're right, you're not ready. And when you do feel like you're ready to commit, then let's regroup and let's try this again at another time.
Wow. And the trust is still there the whole time.
Absolutely.
You told them straight up,
I wish that we were as good at that as you are. And I wish I was able to say the same exact story. Mm-hmm. I'm very honest. Listen, our story is that we've made a lot of mistakes in the past, and we've gone, and not done the best job for clients that we probably should have done. And sometimes either way, it's not working out. I definitely take the side, which is different than I think other agencies, and I'm very strong on this. Nick knows this. I preach this to the entire company, that we made a promise to the client, and sometimes it's never too late to turn things around. But I like to really hang in there with the clients. I think there's too many agencies that are so quick to fire clients because they're not good or not best fit client or whatever. And they almost wear that as a badge of honor. Like, we fire clients. And I don't think any of our clients want to know that they're that easily replaceable to us. But I honestly feel we have to always be improving and developing our skills and be able to manage even the most difficult clients. So I like to hang in there as long as we really can. And I believe that does mean that there's a lot of education. But we took them on as a client in the first place. So we really should be coaching them and working with them and getting the incremental improvement. Marcus, I do agree with what you said, that if they're not ready for it, but I view that as a shared responsibility that we have to take to get them ready for that. And it might take longer. And I hope that the clients will see the value of the steps they've gone through to get to that next level, so they are more ready for it. But that might be the quarterly goals for the first quarter, or even the second quarter, is to help get them ready, as long as they understand the long-term vision for what we're trying to build. And these are things we need to do right now. Probably rambling a little bit, but
no, but I mean, I think that's fine, Bob. What I have to Marcus's suggestion, what I have brought up is there are things that often make our job very difficult to do for you. Is if everybody does what they said they're going to commit to do, then this should go the way that we're saying it should go. But if people end up taking 7 days to get back to us when we said we were going to do it in 3 because you wanted to get this thing launched, within the next quarter or something like that. It's those types of things. When
I look at our people and saying, are we setting the right expectations? Like, if you don't do this, we don't move forward. We don't move forward. We don't get it done. We don't get it done. We don't get results. Right. And I think that it's part of our job to light that fire and help them understand the urgency and the priority amongst things. And again, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I do feel that we have to take a lot of responsibility for, not all the responsibility. Like, if we really did what we were supposed to do to get them to do that, and they still didn't do it,
that's probably what keeps me up at night, is making sure that I did my job in business development to set those expectations, to hopefully ask enough good questions and turn over some stones that I might be scared of what I see on the other side. Because if not, those services that we do, Marcus is the same. We're going to work very closely together over a long period of time. It's going to come out. It's going to be made clear if either one of us wasn't being upfront, wasn't checking something. So that's probably the one thing I kind of stress about is, did I set enough expectations? Did I do enough discovery? Did we lay this out right? So that we don't have any hand grenades blowing up in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Any other final thoughts on that?
It's a tough subject, but I think your points are well made. And I think, to me, the underlying theme was, we've got to try our hardest. We've got to make sure that our communication is incredibly clear, so everybody understands the impact of following through, of doing what everybody's saying they're going to do. And if we're doing that, well, then we're going to eliminate most of the mistakes before they occur.
Mm-hmm. And the only other thing I'll add is, and Impact does this for sure, is creating opportunities throughout the engagement to reassess and say, is this still good? Are we still good going forward? Do we need to shift things up, shift down? I've just found sometimes going for the longest term commitment, the greatest lock-in can be a detriment to both parties, especially because ironically, you might find that it's not the best fit for you long-term and those things you wanted them to commit to. I'm much more comfortable with, as little long-term contract or commitment necessary in writing legally as possible, so that if it's good for us, it's a non-issue and we can openly talk about it, and we can create times to assess and say, are we still good with this? Because if we're not, we should face it up and have a natural place where we could disconnect or ramp down.
Love it. So that was final thoughts in that segment. Why don't we bring final thoughts in for the entire episode? Nick, why don't you lead off here? What was your biggest takeaway from today's episode?
I've enjoyed having there be a third person here on the line. I think, Bob, both you and I have been a little bit nervous about that, and not wanting this to be so much like an interview show. But I think when we've got good people we've worked with for a while, and we hang out with, like Marcus, like it's a natural, more like three-way conversation. So that was kind of my takeaway for those of us who produce content like this, podcasts, webinars, whatever. Maybe you don't have to look at it as like I'm the host and I'm interviewing you and you're the font of knowledge and stuff, but just, we're three professionals hanging out, supporting each other and sharing knowledge. I thought that was cool.
It's a rundown of topics, and we could be sitting around having dinner and having the same exact conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Marcus, how about you? What was your biggest takeaway today?
One fast one slower one. They'll both go fast though. First one is Impact Elite. The peeps are awesome, and I love the engagement. So that's first takeaway. Second one is whatever you're experiencing as a marketer or as a business owner, there's a good chance somebody's also experiencing that, especially if it's a pain or a frustration. You are not alone. And in conjunction with that, the issues that we were having 5 years ago of buy-in, they're going to be the same issues we have for the next 50 years. We're going to be talking about this issue of buy-in for as long as it's unimaginable. Like literally, when we do this show in 5 years, it's going to be a huge issue for many of the people that are listening. This isn't going away. And so this is something that we all need to constantly be thinking about, because it is our toughest task as a marketer.
So true.
So my final thought, which I completely agree with Marcus, so I don't have to go a different direction here. It comes from the conversation we had about the website, and it also comes in from the conversation that we had talking about, should we end a client relationship? And it's, we're never going to be perfect. We should always be learning. We should always be doing things differently. We should always be testing. We should always be striving for improvement. We always want to be better. We'll never be the best. We're always going to make mistakes, but we should always be striving to be better than we were, improvement. And that's the journey that we are all are on. So
nuggets galore on this show.
So Nick, next week is Thanksgiving. Yes. So you and I have both decided that we're not going to eat turkey and spend time with our families. We're going to come to the office and we're going to do a very special Thanksgiving episode. That's it. And I know everyone's going to watch live and tune in because no one wants to eat turkey with their families, right?
Nor watch football.
Yeah, there's already plenty of people, plenty of screen watching that's going to go on, if we're being honest with ourselves.
28 weeks in a row. We've been on every episode except Nick locked his keys out of the car once, or the house. So
show went on. That's what.
So mattered. We've been on every episode. We're going to take a week off, so we're not going to be here next week. Everyone gets a break from the Impact show, but we'll be back the week after. Now I'm going to be traveling that week, so hopefully I'm going to be able to still pull this off. If not, Nick, you might have a replacement for me. Or we might move the time. So just stay tuned. We'll have all the updates in Impact.
You've done it from Estonia. You've done it from the Midwest and stuff. We'll figure it out. I'll be in Chicago.
I'll be in Chicago with Stephanie Stevens doing the hug event out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
A lot
that.
of inbound going on in Chicago.
So make sure you guys come in next week, the 22nd. We have the technical SEO webinar with Franco Valentino. Looking forward to that. We'll have the SEM Rush webinar. Hopefully I can share that in Impact Elite. Make sure everyone gets that as well. And if you liked what you heard today, then please give us some comments, give us some emails, let us know what you think. Nick, if they really like the episode, what should they do?
Come on, folks. 5 stars. 5 stars on that.
On the iTunes.
On that iTunes.
So until next time, everyone, thank you for joining us. Get out there.
Marcus.
And Marcus, thanks so much for being here, buddy.